Joining me now is someone else who served in the Trump administration and will be addressing the convention tonight, former Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, Dr. Ben Carson. Secretary Carson, thank you so much for being here. Really
Pleasure
appreciate
to be with
it.
you. Thank you so much.
Before we look ahead to tonight, I want to ask you about last night, that extraordinary moment where former President Trump walked out onto the convention floor with a bandage on his ear, and it almost felt like there were religious overtones in that moment, including this notion, as some of the speakers said, that former President Trump had been spared or saved for this very moment. What was it like from your perspective to be there?
Well, it was clearly sort of a sense almost of a revival. People recognizing that there's a power greater than ourselves. And I think President Trump realizes that now, too. I mean, he's known it before, but it really comes home to you when you're that close to dying.
Well, you know, in the wake of that horrific assassination attempt, the former president has been very clear. He's rewriting his speech for Thursday night. He says he wants to deliver a message of unity. He wants to try to bring the country together. As you know, we find ourselves in a moment where there's a lot of political rhetoric that gets very heated. He has certainly, and he would not deny this, been a part of that. In one instance, calling for the execution of his former Joint Chiefs of Staff chairman. He's used very colorful rhetoric to talk about immigration and the border. Do you think it is possible for him to deliver a unifying message that reaches out to people beyond this convention?
Well, I think it's possible for all of us. You know, this is a very consequential election because it really is not about personalities and people. We need to just move that to the side and talk about what kind of country do we want to have? Do we want to have a country that is people-centric or one that is government-centric? And what were the original intents of the founders of this country? That's what we really need to be talking about and make a decision. We can go one way or the other, but let's be clear-eyed about which way we go.
Do you think the former president bears some responsibility for the climate, the political rhetoric that we see today?
Well, I think everybody bears responsibility for it. We just need to move beyond, you know, sort of what children do and move to a place where we have adults in the room who actually can sit down, put the facts in the middle of the table, and discuss the issues. And, you know, I've talked to President Trump recently. I think he actually realizes that. And I think you'll probably hear that in his speech.
So you have, based on your conversations with the former president, you're basically saying that he feels as though he's got to make a change overall, not beyond just his speech.
I think that he realizes, and I think that many of the people that I've spoken to realize that we need to move beyond personalities here. And we really need to get to the facts because otherwise it's just a bunch of distraction.
Let me ask you about the other big news yesterday, which is that Donald Trump picked Senator J.D. Vance to be his running mate, 39 years old. He served less than 2 years in the U.S. Senate. You were one of the names that was getting a little bit of buzz. Any disappointment on your end that you're not on the ticket?
My only reason for being in the political arena going back 8 or 9 years is because I want to see our country do well. I want to see our children and our grandchildren have the same kind of opportunities that I've had. It's totally not about me. I don't care about me. I just care about what happens to our country. So I'm pleased that we have people who are willing to sacrifice. Certainly President Trump doesn't need all this stuff. And J.D. Vance is only beginning to feel the heat. You know, the way we do things, we just roast people without thinking about any other thing. And so he's going to have to face all of that. His wife and his children are going to have to face. It shouldn't be that way, but it is, unfortunately. And but I think he's well equipped to deal with it.
If there is a second Trump administration, would you want to be tapped to serve in it?
Well, I want to be tapped to help heal our country and to bring people together. And there's probably a series of different ways to do that. But I will definitely stay involved.
And we're going to hear from you tonight, just very briefly. We have about 10 seconds left. Quick preview of your speech.
Quick preview is I'm not sure what I'm going to say, but I will be inspired when I get there.
It's not written yet? Hey, that's a headline. Secretary Carson will listen very closely. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Real pleasure to have you. Appreciate it very much.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.